Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome to this week's episode of 40 Years and 40 Beers, 2026. We're almost at our yearly anniversary.
Happy New Year, cuz.
Happy New Year.
Yeah, January 16th. You're right.
January 16th, right? We're almost there. We're almost a full year in. We got some really big surprises in store for the 1 year anniversary episode.
Yes, sir.
This week, we're going to kick it off with one of our favorite artists of all time, Tupac Shakur. We're going to dedicate this episode to Tupac, talk everything about him that we know, maybe learn some new things. Hopefully, you guys enjoy it. Let's get started. What's going on, cuz?
So we talked about, we were preparing and we said, he's the only guy that could follow DMX. When we did the DMX episode on his birthday. His politics, his movies, his art, his jail time, death row, the Makaveli stuff. But I know one of the first things we wanted to start off with is Brenda's Got a Baby. So that was really the first solo single he ever released. And we were 12, dog, in 93.
Dude, I think it was 91.
Okay, then we were 10. That's even crazier.
I'm almost positive. So it was on his debut album, right? It was on Tupacalypse Now, which was released by Interscope and actually done by Digital Underground Production.
Yeah.
You know, Shock G, Pee Wee, all those guys. And I believe, I'm almost positive that was 1991. Let's look it up.
Woof. 91. And you're right. When you said
November 91.
Damn, we were 10, dog. I had just turned 11. People our age didn't appreciate it for what it was, the way we were children. You know what I mean? But I would have to imagine the people who were 30, 40 years old at that time, Pac's age, maybe even in the 20s, it hit like a ton of bricks. I mean, he went from All Around the World, same song. We were talking about dancing in the background of the Chevy Chase movie to Brenda's Got a Baby.
Yeah, well, he sung the hook on Digital Underground's All Around the World.
Yeah.
And he actually had a verse in it, if you remember.
Yeah.
He actually did have a verse at the end. But it's funny you say that because I was thinking about this earlier. You're absolutely correct. So I was 9 because I was born in 1982. My first introduction to real hip hop was The Chronic, which didn't come out until 92. So I didn't even really know about Brenda's Got a Baby until the Tupac Greatest Hits album came out.
Right. Dear Mama, Brenda's Got a Baby.
I Get Around. I mean, I didn't know about I Get Around. I didn't know that was off his first album in 91. I had no idea until I became a big fan of his.
I was completely ignorant too. Same.
You know, those are the things that are crazy to me is some of the best songs that he did, some of the best tracks that he did came off that album.
Now, I will say though, you and I caught up kind of quick, right? Because if you think that's 91. Now, the first rap song I ever heard, yours was Chronic, mine was If I Ruled the World by Nas. But the first hip hop CD I ever purchased with my own money was All Eyez on Me. I remember going into Kmart with my mom and buying it, the double CD with my own money. So from 91 to 96, we caught up really quick, right? He was a guy who at 10, we had no idea who he was. Now at 15, we're spending our own money, which probably was the whole paycheck at that point, on his double CD. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Now, when did that come out? When did Greatest Hits come out? That was 96.
All Eyez on Me was 96.
Okay, but no. So remember, then he had the Greatest Hits album after he died, I believe, which was probably 98.
Yeah. So I've been listening to Pac all week trying to prepare for this. So let's go from start to finish here. So Tupacalypse Now is 91. That's got Trapped, Soldier Story, If My Homies Call, and Brenda's Got a Baby. Those were the standout records.
Yeah, there's Strictly a 93. Strictly for that's it. Yeah.
Strictly for My Ninjas was 93. And that's got Holler If You Hear Me and Keep Your Head Up.
Mm-hmm.
And I Get Around with Digital Underground. So, and he's got a couple other cats on here. Tretch from Naughty by Nature is on here, so on and so forth. So 95 was Me Against the World. That's where you get Dear Mama. That was the single. Dear Mama and So Many Tears were the two singles from Me Against the World. That was 95. So then there's a quick jail stint. He comes out, he connects with Suge Knight. 96, he releases a double album. That's All Eyez on Me. There were tons of singles from that. Now, That's because Suge told him he only had to do a 3-album deal. He was like, I'm going to knock this out. So I'm looking, the Greatest Hits wasn't released until 98, so 2 years after he died.
Yeah, so 2 years, because he released All Eyez on Me, and then it was pretty soon after that.
That he died.
He died. Yeah, that was his last album that wasn't released
posthumously. And Death Row did the greatest hits, and then I think that was the last album Death Row did. He may have done Makaveli. Suge may have done Makaveli, but then he left so much music behind that you were able to do Are You Still Down in 97, Still I Rise in 99, Until the End of Time in 01.
Still I Rise, that was with the Outlaws, right? That whole album was pretty much with the Outlaws, I think.
Correct. Still I Rise was Pac and the Outlaws, so it was a joint album.
That album's awesome. That has one of my favorite songs ever, and I can't even remember what it is. It's horrible. I haven't heard it in so long, but oh man.
The Good Die Young?
No, damn it.
Letter to the President, Still I Rise, Secrets of War, Baby Don't Cry, Keep Your Head Up Part 2, As the World Turns, Black Jesus, Homeboys, Hell for a Hustler, that might be
Hell for a Hustler.
Hell for a Hustler, yeah. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 posthumous albums, 2 live albums, and a greatest hits after he died. He recorded so much music, right? Because there was no AI back then. His last official album came out in 2006. There was no capability of altering his voice or whatever. Like he had to leave behind the music, right?
Correct.
In someone's studio for those albums to exist. And so let's back up a second. We wanted to talk about Brenda's Got a Baby outside of the music part of it. So there's a guy, his name is Jeff Pearlman, and this was 2 months ago. He released a video saying that he found a real baby from Brenda's Got a Baby. So it's like a 19-minute video. I'll put some B-roll up as we're talking. But essentially, he says that the mother and the baby did 23andMe, which is like a DNA testing site. You swab yourself, you send the results back, and they trace your DNA to see what other matches you have in terms of like your ancestry and your lineage and stuff like that. So if anyone doesn't know, Tupac's record was inspired by a news article that came out a few months before he wrote the song. And the actual woman and the actual baby popped up together on 23andMe. And this guy, Jeff Pearlman, says he made the connection and he put them in touch with each other and they were able to reunite so many years later. It's amazing that stuff Pac was still involved in is still relevant in 2026.
So I guess the real Brenda, I guess she gave the baby up for adoption eventually, or lost the baby then.
I'm pretty sure she put it in the dumpster. Like the. Have you ever seen the music video?
Yeah, absolutely. I didn't know if that was 100% real.
I'm pretty sure it's identical to the news article. There was a news article about this woman who put her baby in a dumpster and it was found, and Pac created a song based off of that, and that became the single from his first solo album. But this guy Jeff had knowledge of the fact that Pac's story wasn't about his own experience. It was from the news article. And after the 23andMe stuff, like now everything's digital. You get a ping in a database and you could do a lot of stuff with that information. So he said that the video is titled "I Found the Real Baby" from Tupac Shakur's Brenda's Got a Baby. And in the video, we'll link it. He talks about the process of them two going into the DNA thing and him finding them and making the connection.
No shit. That's pretty interesting.
It's crazy.
That's really interesting. So the crazy thing is, the story about how obviously that was his first single. Brenda Got a Baby, when he went and got his record released by Interscope. I actually think, I forget who the record company was that released it though, because it was Interscope was the main. Who was it? It was actually East West Records. It was East West Records. He actually released it through TNT Recordings and Interscope Records.
Yeah, but Interscope was the parent company.
But then East West Records America is who distributed it.
Okay.
All right. So that's who distributed the album. And when he was actually meeting with the record execs at Interscope, and they said they didn't want this to be his first single. They didn't want the record to be his first single because of how controversial it was.
Yeah.
People weren't talking about that stuff then.
Well, and it was real. It came from a real life event, right? So people live consuming the record on the radio in 91, if they were in the area, they knew it was tied to a real woman. You know what I mean? So
Correct.
There was that element to it too.
So think about what's being played on the radio at that time in hip hop, right? We can even go back a few years, you got LL Cool J is dominating the charts at that time.
Hold on. I'm fixing to find out. Top 10.
But even think about Rakim, and Eric B and their album. Keith Sermon, those guys weren't talking about that stuff.
Eric Sermon.
Eric Sermon. Yeah, Eric Sermon. They weren't talking about the stuff that Pac was talking about all of a sudden in 91. That's why people were like, holy shit, what is this?
G-Rap might have been a little bit, but no. So here's the top 10. Hold on. 6, 7. Dog, Brenda's Got a Baby doesn't make the list.
For 1991.
Top 10 rap radio hits in 91. To your point, though, it wasn't on the radio. They stifled it on purpose.
Correct.
So number 1 is You Can't Touch This, MC Hammer. Number 2 is OPP, Naughty by Nature. Number 3 is Summertime, DJ Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince. 4 is LL's Mama Said Knock You Out. 5 is Public Enemy, Fight the Power. You were right about all these. 6 is Now That We Found Love by Heavy D. 7 is Humpty Dance by Digital Underground. So Pac had a little bit of involvement with that. Yep. Mind Playing Tricks on Me by the Ghetto Boys is still one of my favorite records of all time. I Want to Sex You Up, Color Me Bad, and You Can't Play With My Yo-Yo. Yo-Yo by Yo-Yo. I never even heard of that cat.
So 7 of those songs, right, are probably considered pop.
You Can't Touch This.
Summertime.
Now That We Found Love. Humpty Dance. I Want to Sex You Up. You Can't Play With My Yo-Yo. Summertime and OPP are in between somewhere. But yes, I agree with you. Yeah.
So that's why it
more
wasn't
than
on
half
the
the list. Yeah.
That was the first time, I'm telling you, record executives were going batshit crazy because they knew they had something here. But how were they going to release this song? Yeah. How were they going to release this record?
And then to let him record the video and put an actual baby in an actual dumpster like that took a lot of balls from whoever, the white guy in the office was at the time at Interscope letting that shit happen.
Absolutely.
Was
I guarantee he was Jewish.
Who was the Interscope CEO in 1991?
That had to be Jimmy Iovine, right?
No. Yeah. Jimmy Iovine. So that's why. That's why a song like Brenda's Got a Baby exists and they put a baby in a dumpster in the video because it was Jimmy.
Exactly. So it was somebody smart. It was definitely somebody smart. And he was always a risk taker to begin with.
And Ted Field co-founded the label. Jimmy and Ted Field co-founded the label. Now, Ted Field is the guy who was the first guy who recognized Pac had talent as a solo artist. That's what Shock G says in this interview I was watching earlier today. So yeah, Jim, that's why. That makes sense now because Jimmy was always ahead of his time with stuff like that. He had one of the realest ears there ever was.
So that's the crazy thing that it just hit me about now. So obviously Digital Underground was signed to Interscope and that's how that all worked out, right? Mm-hmm. But I didn't realize that all of these rap artists, Shock G, Tupac, were signed to Interscope before Dre.
Yeah. Shock G talks about it in this video. We're going to look at a clip of it later in a different segment. But as a solo artist, they went to Tommy Boy first and they shot him down. And he said they went to a couple other labels and he said that no one saw. And then they came back to Interscope. Like he's on Interscope as Digital Underground. So I guess it was a little dicey to have him on Interscope as a solo artist. You have to remember like that. I guess Pac technically was the first one to do that, be in a group and a solo on the same label. But that didn't really that wasn't really common until RZA and Wu-Tang did it.
Yeah.
On one label, they were as a group, and then they separated on 9 different labels as individuals. But Shock G says Tommy Boy and a couple other labels turned Pac down as a solo artist before Jimmy eventually let Tupacalypse Now come out.
No shit. Now, so at this time, this is when he starts to get into acting, right? And it was kind of accidental, if you remember. So the story I heard was, because it was Juice, right? Juice was the first movie he was in. I don't know exactly who it was, but from what I understand, his boy was actually auditioning for the role or playing the part, whatever. And then he started fucking around with the lines, and that's how he ended up getting the part.
That's the story I heard too. So that's Juice was his first one. And he played it phenomenal. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, it wasn't a stretch. Like Ice Cube.
Bishop's an iconic character.
He is, but it wasn't that far off from who Pac was as a real person. That's what I'm saying. Like, it wasn't a stretch. It wasn't difficult for him to play that role. But he still did a fantastic job. You can't take anything away from him. And then you have Poetic Justice.
Right.
He showed you a slightly different side with that.
Well, and again, I didn't think about this at the time. I was 11 years old, but now you realize that's when he started to show range.
Correct. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. To go from, and maybe that was intentional, but to go from Juice to Poetic Justice, to see the two opposite sides of that rainbow, that was very powerful for him to be able to pull that off. And then he goes back to a gangster in Above the Rim and so on and so forth.
So did you know that he was supposed to be in Menace to Society? He was supposed to be O-Dog.
No way.
Yeah. And I don't know if they filmed it with him or what happened, but basically he got fired because it was the Hughes brothers, right?
Wait a
Albert
minute.
Hughes and
Supposed to be in or start, or he was originally the guy.
so
You
I
said he
don't
got fired, which means he was hired.
yeah, I'm pretty sure he was hired. He was
Okay.
hired. He was actually cast as O-Dog. Something happened and he got fired. And then, if I remember correctly, he beat up one of the Hughes brothers like 6 months later.
Oh my God.
One of the
I mean, that tracks.
But could you imagine? No, listen, Lorenz Tate did a great job. Yeah, he was young as hell when he did that movie. But could you imagine if Tupac was O-Dog? I can't even imagine. What if he would have been waxed?
Anybody, he could, and that's what I'm saying. So, like, I think Pac could have done anything. Imagine if he was still alive, what kind of movies he would be in now.
Oh my God, I don't even know if he would have. He probably would have eventually given up music. I think because the money he would have made acting.
Just to see, like how you see Will Smith did it, Queen Latifah, even Gillian Nori going into podcasting. Pac would be a phenomenal podcast host. So think about. Like I was telling you the other day, and I don't know if you agree or not, but I think he could have been like the next Denzel. I don't think he could have been better than or ever replaced Denzel, but I think he could have been knocking at the door of that caliber of a movie star.
Well, that's an interesting point. And I think that's a lot of people don't realize, especially today, if you were born after, 1995?
Yeah.
Is that when he died? No,
96 he passed.
96 he died.
Yeah.
So you don't realize, all you know is Tupac was a rapper, actor who died. You don't realize how intelligent he actually was. He was ridiculously intelligent. And I agree with you. I think he would have actually put a lot of work and effort into that craft, into that medium.
Yeah, 100%.
And he may have even eventually won an Oscar.
Yeah, I could totally see that.
Because he was so driven.
Him
He
as
was
Alonzo in Training Day?
Yes, absolutely.
100%. He could have totally.
I could.
And again, I don't think Denzel had that kind of upbringing, but again, it's not a stretch to play a badass from the hood, like as a cop, as a bad cop.
Didn't we already see him as a cop? Wasn't he in like Ricochet or Bulletproofs?
Deep Blue or The Blues or so. Yeah, there were a couple. That wasn't his first cop movie for sure. You're talking about Denzel, but could have totally, I'm not saying done it better, but Pac could have totally, it would have been a little scarier, but he could have totally pulled off. Think about Gridlock and what was the John?
That's what he was in. He was in Gridlock.
There was another one with Belushi, wasn't there?
I don't know. I can't remember. That's what I'm looking up now.
Let's go to IMDb real quick. Woo! Gang related.
Yeah, he was in Above the Rim, Murder. Well, the Murder was the case. Movie.
Gang related with Jim Belushi. Gridlock with Tim Roth. See, they list all of his music videos, so it gets kind of skewed. He was in Bullet with Mickey Rourke. I didn't even know about that.
Yeah, he played Tank in that movie, I think.
Above the Rim, Poetic Justice. He was in an episode of Different World. Remember, he was what's-the-name's boyfriend.
I never saw A Different World.
And you never saw one episode of A Different World?
Maybe one.
Oh my God, cuz Juice and Nothing But Trouble was his first movie.
Yes, yeah, he was in that. I do remember you saying
they were the rap group in the background when the judge was he goes in front of the judge.
Yep. Then they all went through the bone stripper.
Yeah. So Gridlock, Bullet, and Gang Related were the other three. Gang Related was 1997, but of course he filmed it in Gridlock and Gang Related released in 97, but I'm sure he filmed them both. So think about that. He's got 2 movies and a double album recorded in 96. Had to have been because he died in 96 while being in jail. I mean, like not while being in jail, but he was in jail. He released a double album, which was, it's over 4 times platinum now. It was his best piece of work.
Mm-hmm.
And 2 movies. And like, that's what Shock G was saying. Like, I want to play this clip for you real quick. All right, so check this out. I got it queued up. Blood scrapers.
Piss and shit in the toilet.
It's disgusting.
He didn't even remember that he didn't flush it because if he was sitting on the toilet writing a rhyme and the phone...
Did he wipe his ass, cuz? How could you be that preoccupied with anything?
He had to wipe his ass.
For sure. Now he's sitting out there.
DMX and Nas's apartment from Belly.
I had to wipe the rug.
He's talking about dropping blunt ash on the Persian rug.
In a couple of weeks.
Crazy. That's nuts, bro.
That is nuts.
Like to be so engrossed in writing that you don't wipe your ass, you don't put clothes on, you don't take out the trash, like you don't repair your car. I had no idea he was that. I mean, it makes sense based on the amount of music and movies he left behind, but I had no idea he was that crazy.
No, it almost sounds like he was kind of like a recluse, like kind of lived this reclusive lifestyle.
Yeah, when he wasn't on stage, when he wasn't creating music or doing a movie, Shock G gives you the impression that every other time he was writing, and he said that he would only say yes to beats that fit a rhyme in his book. He would never pick a beat before writing to it. He would never pick a beat that didn't fit with something he had already. So like if Dre would play him a beat, he would go through his book and be like, okay, this fits with Soldier Story.
He would
Okay,
never listen to the beat first and then write?
No, always wrote in the book because he was writing constantly. That's what he was saying. Like if you think about, you don't shower, you don't wipe your ass, you don't clean up after yourself, you don't tend to your car or anything in the house, and all you're doing is writing. He just had books and books of rhymes, and he would do 3 verses, give it a name, 3 verses, give it a name. And he was saying, like, Dre would play him a beat. Okay, this has to fit. He said the music had to be a backdrop to one of his songs he wrote in his book, or he didn't pick it. He wasn't worried about like, this beat is dope, this beat's going to be a party record, so on and so forth. It had to fit the vibe of the songs in his notebook. Like, he had a vision and an ear for how they matched up. And if he said yes, that's how he picked the beat. He would never write to the beat or listen to them ahead of time.
Well, speaking about that process, let's get into that. Now we're at the point in his life, we just had the Shock G video up. Basically, he was with Interscope and Shock G Productions for a few albums. And then around 1995, 96, right, he has an issue with, I think it was the sexual assault case. So he's sitting in prison, I guess Interscope probably dropped him from the label. Sitting in jail, I should say, not prison. Sitting in jail, waiting trial. All of a sudden, Suge Knight comes in and saves the day and bails him out, right? That's the way the timeline goes. So now he signs this 3-record deal with 3-album deal with Death Row, who is basically, the nastiest kid on the block. So he goes there and he's already having all these issues, right? He's already having issues with the courts. He's probably having issues financially. Well, now we put him in this environment with some cold-blooded gangsters, which let's be honest, that wasn't what he was. He was a lot more political and a lot more open-minded and a lot more intellectual than he ever was a gangster. Right?
Yeah, but he definitely had that in him. There's no way. I mean, he had Thug Life tattooed on his stomach. There's no way he didn't have that in him.
But that was an acronym.
Yes, but the gangster lifestyle, he got shot 1 million times before the bullet that actually killed him. Like you can't paint the picture for people that don't know that he was like a saint until he met Suge Knight.
Yeah. I'm not saying he was a saint, but I'm also not saying like he wasn't going around.
He wasn't Suge Knight either. Yeah, you're right.
He wasn't from O Block, you know what I mean, in Chicago. He wasn't hanging out in that kind of lifestyle.
I do agree. Yeah, like because his mother was a Black Panther. Like he had a political background. The guy that plays in Poetic Justice is not a Suge Knight type of person by default, for sure.
Correct. So now he's there and he gets the opportunity to work with Dr. Dre. Actually, not just Dre on the All Eyez on Me album. I mean, he worked with Dre. I think he worked with Daz and Corrupt.
Snoop, 2 of America's Most Wanted is one of the singles.
I mean the producers on the records. I know Daz. Daz definitely did a few tracks on the album.
Daz did a couple tracks. I think Daz did Got My Mind Made Up. That had Method Man and Redman on it. So now he's working with East Coast artists. Method Man talks about that, like how difficult that was to perform that record, have that record be as popular as it was. Got My Mind Made Up was a hit.
I loved it.
It was released. Easy Mo B, which is one of the guys that also produced on Biggie's first album, Ready to Die. Yeah, but Dre did most of the production on All Eyez on Me.
And then Suge is obviously the executive producer, right? Even though he didn't do anything.
Yeah.
I can't imagine Suge came into the booth and was like, you know what, we should turn down this bass and we should actually put this vocal here. And I can't imagine Suge did any of that.
No, but I think there's a reason why 2 of America's Most Wanted was the first single, and songs like Life Goes On and California Love came after that. Like, I definitely think Suge had some involvement in this song is gangster enough to be #1 kind of a thing, right? Like, Suge would have never let a Brenda's Got a Baby record go out before a 2 of America's Most Wanted. So, like, I think he had a little involvement like that. He played the Puffy role without the whispering on the records. Like, I Thought I Told You That We Won't Stop.
Without
Puff never made a beat. The Hitmen were a group of super producers for Bad Boy. They made all the beats.
Yeah, but Puffy was probably a much more of an involved executive producer than
Oh, he
Suge
was
ever
way more
was.
involved, yes, but it's the same role without the involvement that they held. But Puff never made beats, you know what I mean? Like Dr. Dre
No.
produces a record, and Puffy and Suge executive produce the record. There's a big difference there.
Yeah, absolutely. Now I know.
So Death Row, under Death Row, he does All Eyez on Me, double CD, 4 times platinum. It's his best record of all time, one of the best hip hop albums of all time. Then they released the greatest hits in 97 after he dies, and Makaveli. So he recorded, and I don't know why whoever released the remaining album. We just talked about the fact that there were 6 albums after he passed. I don't know why they didn't stick with the Makaveli moniker and they went back to Tupac, but for him to like predict his own death, pretend that he was dying, come out with an album after the success of All Eyez on Me, to have enough balls or to not give a shit enough to go back to change your name, right? Like how crazy is that whole process in your head? Like All Eyez on Me is 4 times, it wasn't 4 times platinum immediately, but this is the
platinum.
best.
It was platinum that year.
Yeah, this is the best body of work I've ever put together, and now I'm going to change my name. Like that's such a crazy artistic decision.
No, it is. I agree. It is.
And people don't talk about the 7-Day Theory enough. I mean, I gotta be honest with you. The second disc of All Eyez on Me is pretty garbage.
What's on?
I don't like it at all. Huh?
What's on disc 2?
Nothing. Can't See Me. Shorty Want to Be a Thug. Holler at Me.
Oh, I love
Picture
Can't
Me
See. Are you
Rolling.
crazy? I love Can't See Me. I love
All
Picture Me
Eyez
Rolling.
on Me is the only record I like on disc 2.
You
could have put
like
All
Can't
Eyez on Me on
See?
disc 1 and released a single album. Disc 1's got Ambitions as a Rider, All About You, Scandalous, Got My Mind Made Up, How Do You Want It, 2 of America's Most Wanted, Life Goes On, California Love, I Ain't Mad at You. All the singles literally came from disc 1. You could have put All Eyez on Me on disc 1 and cut the rest of these records as far as I'm concerned.
I can't believe you don't like Can't See Me.
Nah.
Oh, you're crazy.
So
You don't like that?
Dre did a great beat, but I just don't like the song. So Makaveli, the Don Killuminati, the 7-Day Theory also came out in 96. So hold on, let's look at this. Makaveli was November 5th, 96, and All Eyez on Me was February 13th, 96. So he did All Eyez on Me, Makaveli, Gridlock'd, and Gang Related, and went to prison, all in 1996. Makaveli has Hail Mary, Toss It Up, To Live and Die in L.A., Me and My Girlfriend, Against All Odds. There's a lot of great Blasphemy, Bomb First. There's a lot of great records on the Makaveli album, too.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
That's such a crazy artistic decision, right? Like, when was the last time you saw that? Prince changed his name. How many people do you see that with?
Prince changed to a symbol. Diddy, right? He went from Puff Daddy to Diddy.
Puff Daddy, Diddy, P. Diddy, yeah.
It's the only recollection I have of it ever happening.
Do you think Pac influenced Puff's decision to change his name?
No, it's an interesting thought. Maybe.
I mean, so what really comes after? I mean, so he had like a big, we spent a few minutes talking about Woodstock and DMX's performances with Hard Knock Life and stuff like that. When I look it up, Pac has a lot of like iconic interviews, a lot of great discussion and things that he said, questions he answered. But from a performances perspective, all he really has is 1996 House of Blues performance. So no like iconic performances on stage. He was an iconic performer, period. But there's not much he did with his life after Eyez on Me and Makaveli came out. It was really like the end for him. I mean,
well, Death Row never did a tour that I can remember. I mean,
no.
When did he
die?
June of 96?
September of 96.
September of 96.
September 8th. I know the greatest rapper of all time died on March 9th. Biggie is March 9th, 1997. But 9/8/96. So between January and September, he did all of that. And so one of the things I wanted to ask you about, I haven't had a chance to see it yet, but you watched the entire Reckoning documentary, right? That 50 put out about Puff. Is that right? Yeah. You watched the whole thing?
Yeah. I mean, it was,
so there's
pretty insane.
It's not, I was shocked when you told me that all 4 episodes did not completely revolve around Diddy's sex life and all that weird shit that's going on presently. There was an entire episode dedicated to Biggie and Pac and the murders and all that stuff. So talk to me about that. Break it down.
So I watched it a while ago, so I can't really remember exactly what happened, but it's basically implied that Puffy had Tupac killed. Like, it's
implied by who though?
It's implied by people who were involved with Bad Boy and who are no longer involved with Bad Boy. So basically what happened was Puffy and Biggie were going out to LA and they were using the Crips. Because remember, Suge was blood. They were using the Crips for security.
Wow. I didn't know that.
So basically what happened was one of the Orlando Anderson, if you remember him, he was pretty much a really good friend or tied in with the main guy from this Crip set that Biggie and Puffy would use would use, when they went out there for security. Well, when they rolled Orlando Anderson, things were already in motion for Puffy to hang on, I remember now, so you'll be able to edit this. Basically, Puffy was in a room and he was like, I got $1 million or 500 grand or $1 million for whoever kills that motherfucker. Basically talking about Tupac.
And but was it like I had a couple beers and I'm bullshitting with my boys, or was he serious?
This is when they were hanging out with the Crips.
The Crips, okay.
Yeah, so the Crips who were security basically went to Las Vegas the night of the Tyson fight, and that's how Orlando Anderson got rolled. He was one of the Crips. Remember, there's the fight in the hotel lobby.
Yeah.
The night of the Tyson fight. Well, then one of the 1, 2, 3, whoever of the Southside Crips, not the Southside Crips, of whatever Crips set they are, shot and killed Tupac. The craziest part about
hold on. Somebody took him up. The reckoning has you believe that somebody took him up on the offer for the $1 million, and they shot Pac on Puff's behalf in hopes that they were going to go back home and collect the $1 million.
Correct.
Woo! And it's a Crip. It was like one of the Crip gang members that pulled the trigger.
Correct. And they talk about, so basically what happened was there was no connection. Puffy gave money to somebody. That third party then gave it to the Crips. Yeah.
Now, who's on the Reckoning documentary saying these words out loud on screen?
So basically, when Bad Boy Records was founded, Puffy had another partner, and you find out that Puffy basically screwed him. Puffy said to him that he needed him to sign over his rights. He was a really good friend, best friend of Puff. He's like, I just need you to sign over your rights for like 6 months to me so I can get this deal done financially, whatever. It's going to be best for everybody involved. And then he screwed him. So now this guy who saw everything is basically telling everybody all the shit that went on behind the scenes.
So there's a different individual who isn't the best friend who got screwed, and he's not the Crip. It's a different person telling this story.
Correct.
And everybody who watches the documentary believes this cat?
Listen, I don't know. I'm just saying that the way it's portrayed, it's definitely believable.
So I know we're talking about Pac, and I don't want to take anything away from Pac, but you can't bring up Pac without bringing up Big. Does the documentary tarnish Biggie's legacy in any way, shape, or form?
Not at all. No,
okay.
Not at all. Good. Dude, the worst part is when you get into it.
I'm boycotting.
So Puffy was such an egomaniac. He kind of realized he controlled Big. All right. Big never wanted to go out to LA to promote Life After Death. He was like, I'm staying out of LA. Why do I got to go there? Right. So they go out there. Basically, Puffy forces him to, and he was all set to go to London or something.
Wait a minute. Pause right there. Because on Life After Death, hold on, what time is it? Okay, we're good. 2:00. On Life After Death, Going Back to Cali is a remake of LL Cool J song that Biggie did. Now, I realize that it may have been released after Big passed and Puff had control over everything that went down after Biggie died.
But the single, no, because the single was out already when he died.
Hypnotized, yeah. He shot a video for that.
Was it Hypnotized? I thought Going Back to Cali was out already too, the single.
But there was no video for that. He shot a video for Hypnotized. But I'm saying, my point is, I don't know if it was played on the radio prior to the song beginning, but on the album, anybody, first of all, Life After Death is my #1 hip hop album of all time. It's nobody even comes close. Well, you talk about a double CD. Biggie's double CD is far better than
That's way
Pac's
better than
double
All
CD.
Eyes on Me. Way better.
But anybody who's a fan who listened to that album more than once, there's a famous skit before going back to Cali where Puff calls him and he's in the hotel or whatever. He's got a broad in the bed with him. And he's like, tell your girl, get a pen. Remember to something like flight 504, leaving Kennedy, going to LAX. And Big's like, whoa, Cali? He's like, no doubt, baby. No, we got to get this paper. He's like, all right. He's like, I'll meet you at the airport. He's like, flight 504, 6 a.m. He's like, yeah, I got you. But why would that skit exist if the opposite was true in real life, that he didn't want to go? Why would Big make fun of that if he didn't want to go?
I don't know. They tell you, everybody in this documentary tells you he didn't want to. He felt ever since Tupac was killed, he felt that if he went out to LA, he was going to get killed. And he did everything he could not to go. The morning the morning of the night he was killed, he was supposed to go to London to be like one of the first hip hop artists to meet with the foreign press, the European foreign press. Puffy canceled the trip in the morning and told him, no, you're going to this party.
Do they explain to you the reasoning behind why he wanted him to go to the party and not London?
I can't remember.
Because Puff
pretty much portray it's because he was such a control freak. It was just whatever he wanted at all times.
I was going to say, but Puff is also driven by money. And I would imagine becoming the first artist in London, hip hop artist in London to blow would have also been just as lucrative as a fucking party.
Yeah, no, you got to watch it. Don't boycott it. You have to, because it's fascinating. The whole thing's fascinating.
Is 50 narrating?
No,
he's not in it at all.
He's just a producer. He just put it together.
You got to respect 50 Cent, dog.
Because he told us. Don't you remember, bro? He told us friggin' what's it called? He told us 10 years ago. He was like, you know what this motherfucker said to me? He asked me if he could take me shopping. I was like, motherfucker, what'd you just say?
How about Puff is whacked and he's on Drink Champs with Fabulous and somebody else. And he's telling him, we never went shopping for your birthday, daddy. He's calling him daddy. Puff's calling Fab daddy on fucking Drink Champs. And this was recent. I mean, Drink Champs is only 5, 8 years old. Puff is like, it's so crazy, like the internet they'll murder anybody, but like, it's so crazy now when you look at like a montage of like all these extremely suspect statements and videos from Puffy. Like, you can't help but buy into all this ridiculousness a little bit. You know what I'm saying?
No, you're right. I agree. Sorry, hang on. Vito's texted about Flyers tickets. Hang on a second. Do I want to go to the Flyers game on Monday? Let me check and see what my sports schedule is.
Did he actually bang Madonna?
Tupac?
Yeah.
I believe so. I believe he did. I think they talk about that in the documentary as well.
I don't understand why they spend so much time talking about Biggie and Pac if it's a Puff documentary.
So they don't. It's more they just talk about his involvement.
So I wanted to ask you this: as far as the documentary is concerned, do they speak on who had Pac killed?
I just told you who had Pac.
I mean, who had Big killed?
It was somebody from the Crips. It was somebody from the Bloods. I mean, he's on trial now.
So a Crip was paid by Puffy to kill Pac and Suge, right? That's why it was $1 million. That's what you told me.
Yeah.
500 for Pac, 500 for Suge, but they missed. So he only got $500,000. And then Suge turned around and pays a Crip to shoot Big.
I can't remember if he paid the Crip or the Blood or whatever, but the Bloods are who went and shot Biggie.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So the Crip is on trial now for the murder.
Biggie's murder, yeah.
Wow.
The Blood.
The blood.
Always remember, Suge Knight's of Blood.
Did you ever see the Johnny Depp and Forrest Whitaker movie about the Biggie and Tupac murders?
Yes.
I never saw that. I wasn't sure if that was like, I mean, Johnny Depp is the shit no matter what he does, but it seemed to me like they were making a mockery of the situation. Like, it wasn't to be taken serious. Was it a good film?
No, it was good. It gets into all the specifics about how basically the guy from the LAPD was kind of shut down because I think the guy's name's
investigators, right?
I think the guy's name's Alvin Mack. And if you remember, Alvin Mac was part of Death Row Records, and he was a cop, and apparently he was involved in the Biggie shooting as well. And from what I remember with everything, once it started going down that road, there were people in the LAPD, some higher ups, who kind of shut the investigation down.
I bet you, just like how the Mafia had connections with Hoffa and JFK's family, I bet you the Crips had connection with the cops in LA.
Because the LA had a homicide division that was called the Hip Hop Squad.
Yeah, the hip hop police, I always thought that was bullshit. When I was a kid, I always thought that was fake.
Yeah, no, they were called, and it wasn't that they were just out to get hip hop. It was just that there was crime and all this shit going on in LA amongst people involved in hip hop, that they had a division called the Hip Hop Police.
If you think about it, hip hop is the first art form where they want you to believe that they're speaking on murders and illegal activity that they actually pulled off themselves.
Correct.
Right? So it would make sense that if there's any truth to the lyrics, you could listen to the albums and then literally begin an investigation or an indictment or an arrest based off track 7. You know what I mean? So like,
yep.
I just always thought it was something cool that one or two people said in an album to sound, like they were cool, and then it kind of took off from there. But the Johnny Depp movie talks about how there was a real task force for hip hop.
Yeah, the investigation, it gets into everything.
Nice.
Now, here's the question I have. Now, even though we know, well, the theory is, right, from The Reckoning, that the Crips set in motion that they were going to go out and try to get Tupac and get Suge, I almost wonder if Tupac doesn't get in the fight that night, right, in the casino lobby with Orlando Anderson. Does he get shot that night? Was that the catalyst, right? That fight? Was that what they went, you know what, he's here tonight, let's just get him? Was that?
I mean, yes, probably that night. But you have to imagine that if there was a Crip that was either paid to, or it was retaliation because, if there was a blood that was paid or it was retaliation for what the Crips did, you have to imagine that it was going to happen the next night or the night after that. But yeah, the fight in the lobby and the spectacle that was the Tyson fights back then. This is Tyson in his prime.
Yeah.
This is Animal Tyson.
Absolutely.
Who was he fighting that night? Who was Tyson fighting that night?
Holyfield?
Woo, that was the ear biting?
Now, you know what? It wasn't the Holyfield.
Was that the ear biter?
Yeah, but that wasn't it. Hang on. He got death. Here we go. Murder. Bruce Sheldon is who he fought. Mike Tyson. So that was kind of like when he started coming back. 96, because he pretty much just got out of prison around then.
Should we do like our top 5 Pac records or what?
Oh, I can do my top 5 Pac records at no problem. All right, so you know what? Before we close out, one thing I'm curious about is, I'll tell you mine first. Some of them are probably going to match. What are your top 5 records of all time? All right. And
wait, Pac records or top 5 period?
Top 5 Pac records.
Okay.
Now, obviously, it's not albums. I'm talking about record singles.
I have a playlist. I got to go through the playlist. I don't have. You got them off. You have yours off the top of your head?
Yeah, absolutely.
Woof.
All right.
Go ahead. Hit me.
Ambitions of a Rider. Can't See Me.
You're
Hit 'em Up.
crazy.
Oh, dude. Hit 'em Up.
Yeah.
2 of America's Most Wanted. Yeah, you know what? I'm not, because there's a feature on there, so I'm not going to do that.
That's fine. I mean, it's still a great record. It's Pac's song featuring Snoop
and Me and My Girlfriend.
So I would go with, this is not popular opinion. I would go with To Live and Die in LA.
Okay.
Life Goes On. I Ain't Mad at You. 2 of America's Most Wanted. And I would probably have to say number 5 is a tie between Hit 'Em Up and Changes.
Yeah, you know what? And I want to go back. I want to take, what was my 5th, Me and My Girlfriend?
Yeah.
No, My Mind Made Up.
Yeah, got my mind.
That's my 5. That's my 5.
That was like his only real like posse cut. Like when there's like 5 or 6 guys on a record, no hook. That was his only real one. I mean, he had a lot with the Outlaws and his crew, but like people outside of his original gang. And in that Shock G video we played earlier, he says that the day he went over Pac's house, he's got all the windows and doors open, and he's got the Digital Underground golden plaques on the entertainment center. He bought new couches and rugs and TVs, and he's got the windows and doors open in Oakland. And Shock G climbs through the window, and he's telling him, like, you can't fucking do this. He's like,
someone's going to steal all your shit.
So one day he climbs through the window and takes all of his stuff and hides it in the bedroom. And then he leaves a note, like, it was me this time. It's not going to be me next time. And he says Pac comes home. He brings Tretch with him from Naughty by Nature and all the Outlaws. But he says the Outlaws are like 16, 17.
Oh, my
And
God.
Pac's telling him, fuck that. I'm not worried about nobody stealing my shit. He's like, come here, let me show you this. He goes into his bedroom closet and pulls out an AK. And Pac's like, doesn't know how to use it. So he's like trying to cock it back and get it ready. And he shoots the whole fucking floor and sofa in the living room. He said he almost killed one of the Outlaws.
Oh, my God.
And he said, like, he ends the interview by saying Pac always had this boyish gleam in his eye. He didn't even care. He was so excited that he had this gun that and that it went off accidentally. Instead of saying, like, I almost killed one of my boys and I ruined my fucking brand new sofa and floor, he was just like, oh, did you see that? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I'm sure that's
so
exactly what he said. That's crazy.
So crazy to think about the mentality of someone like that. Like, that's how you know, knowing everything you know about him now, he couldn't have lived this long.
How old was he? 25?
Yeah. There's no way he could have existed this long with that kind of behavior. There's no way.
No. I mean, he would have eventually found himself in some other sort of situation, I would imagine. Right?
Could you imagine Me Too and all the woke shit now? There's no way he would have had to transform. There's no way he could have been down that road. But the one thing Shock G did say is the day he joined Digital Underground, he was getting boxed left and right, thrown at him all over the place. He said there's no way Pac was ever in a situation where he would needed to rape anyone.
Yeah, and from what you saw, even in like the movies and portrayals and people who spoke about him, it never sounded like he disrespected women. I mean, his best friend in the world was a woman, Jada Pinkett.
Yeah. I think that was his only like platonic female relationship. We talked earlier, like he was with Madonna. I have to imagine he tried something with Janet Jackson. I don't know. I mean, maybe that's just me, but like, I can't imagine. You always hear of like young people when they're in like an iconic or significant movie or TV show like that, they always get together. Like Jonathan and Nancy from Stranger Things, the real actors and actresses, they're dating each other. You know what I mean? Like you always hear, like, I can't imagine he didn't even try to hit once. Like, I can't imagine that. But
no, I'm sure he did.
So we did our top 5. I think there's, like we said, there's not much to, after the Death Row Makaveli, his death, and then the reckoning. There's not much more to say. One of the things I do know about Big's death is I remember watching the funeral on TV. I remember the hearse driving through Brooklyn. I remember it was like when the Eagles won the Super Bowl. Like how we behaved on Broad Street is how it looked in Brooklyn. I don't remember ever hearing any stories about Pac's funeral.
No. You know what? Neither do I.
That's crazy to me.
It is crazy.
Because whether you like the music, whether you like the movies, whether you thought the two of them were fantastic or idiots, they were both just as popular and just iconic, and they both died within a year of each other, right?
They were. But here's the other thing, right? Like, Pac didn't really have a home, so to speak, right? Like, he grew up in Baltimore. Then he shifted out to Oakland. Then he's in L.A., right? So
he was born in New York.
There you go.
Yeah.
Biggie was always in Brooklyn, right?
Yeah, that's true.
He even helped cats from Brooklyn. Like, dude, Junior Mafia were all his boys from Brooklyn. These are boys from Bed-Stuy. These are boys that he freaking grew up with. D-Rock, all them boys.
But that's my point, is like he left just as big, if not a bigger impression than Biggie did culturally. Like worldwide, Pac left a bigger impression than Big did.
I don't disagree.
Musically, Big left just as powerful of an impression. But Biggie wasn't in movies. Biggie wasn't he wasn't politically savvy. He wasn't doing a lot of like intriguing interviews and all kinds of stuff like that. I think culturally, if you zoom out and just consider more than the music, the person and their life, left a bigger impact. You have to imagine wherever Miss Shakur said the funeral was going to be held, it should have been just like Biggie's.
If she wanted it to be public, maybe it wasn't public.
That's
and that
true.
Was the case.
That's true. I didn't.
But here's the other thing.
She could have done like invitation only type of thing.
don't know that it would have been as big as Biggie's, because to go back to my point about he was so loved in Brooklyn, right? I mean, just loved in Brooklyn. Like, you don't hear people from Baltimore claiming Tupac. You don't hear people from Oakland claiming Tupac, right? Everybody from Brooklyn who loves hip hop.
It was the whole
Biggie.
coast that he claimed, but Biggie claimed Brooklyn. There's a major difference there. I get that. Yeah, I get.
I mean, every time he rapped, every time he was on stage, it was always Brooklyn, Brooklyn this, Brooklyn
But
that.
don't
Hey,
you
Brooklyn,
think
we did
people
it.
flew in from out of town to attend Big's funeral?
I'm not going to say they didn't, but I would say 95% of the people who were there were from Brooklyn, were from Bed-Stuy.
Because you'd have to imagine the circles he was in. Like, there's pictures of Pac with Michael Jackson, Madonna, Mike Tyson.
I wonder
You
if he was
have
with
to
Epstein.
imagine people would have flown in wherever it was held.
Could you imagine if that comes out with all this shit? What if we find out like a week from now, all of a sudden there's more Epstein files released? They're like, Tupac, what were you doing?
Tupac and Epstein.
Oh my God. And Pac sitting there with this look on his face like,
Trump, wasn't he, were they boys back in the day?
Trump and Pac?
Yeah.
Maybe they were. Who knows?
I thought I heard.
I got to imagine Trump rubbed elbows with everybody and anybody, especially when he was doing his real estate and casino thing, right? But no, I definitely think Trump. You're right.
I'm sure they crossed paths.
It's no secret that I don't like him, but you're right. He does. He had his hand involved in everything. Like you said, he did a skit on the Method Man album. He was in Home Alone. I got to think there was a time where they're at a restaurant and Pac's in New York, and he's like, "Yo, go get him. Tell him to come over."
Yeah. I really like what you're doing, man.
Yeah, he had to introduce himself.
Yeah,
you know?
I think this was a great second music icon episode. I like the idea of season 4. We honor one icon every episode.
Well, next episode we're gonna do multiple icons, because next episode is the Woo.
Oh my God, you're not ready for that, cuz.
Oh, I'm definitely.
I mean, they're not ready for that.